So this is our Road to Publication expert panel. It's funny talking there when my panel is right behind me, talking here. So I'm just going to have to swing back and forth. This is our panel for people who want to be published, basically. Folks that have been writing or want to write and want to know what does it take, soup to nuts, to get a book out into the world. And there's many ways to do it. So there's actually multiple roads, multiple roads to publication. I'm Nev March. I'm the author of Murder in Old Bombay. I'm the New York chapter president of Mystery Writers of America. And I have a series out with Macmillan, with Minotaur, which is part of Macmillan Publishers, and Hannah's from there. And I do see that within our chapter, we have wonderful writers in many, many subgenres, and there's less information than I would like about the publishing side. There's a lot of information about the creative side, and we have nice critique groups and support library groups like this. There's a lot of support on that side, but I'm going to ask our lovely panel a bunch of questions to get you some information on the publishing side. So to introduce them, there we go. Hannah is actually in the middle here, is senior editor at St. Martin's Press and Minotaur Books, publishing a wide range of fiction and nonfiction. It's one of the big five, right? It's one of the traditional big five. On the fiction side, much of her list falls within the mystery space, from cozy to noir, whole range, and centers unforgettable, emotionally complex protagonists. She's interested in mysteries and thrillers that interrogate and critique social structures and the criminal system, and feature characters from underrepresented groups. In nonfiction, her list includes memoir, untold stories from history, cultural criticism, and investigative journalism, particularly narratives dealing with racial justice and queer issues. And then she has a whole series of recent successes. Gabriel Korn, Anna Gifty Okuku, I'm probably messing that name up, sorry, a gayman, and then a few others, and I recognize a couple of these names, which are really nice to know. Now, Verena, on the right in red, Verena in red, is the co-owner, CFO, and acquisitions editor, pay attention to that word, underlining it, for Level Best Books, which has 4 publishing imprints. While she loves all mystery subgenres, she has a fondness for historical mysteries. Well, me too. And has written and published several short stories in the subgenre, and she also has put together some lovely anthologies. Besides her duties at Level Best Books, she hosts the podcast Sunday Teas with V at the History Chronicles, but it's Hystery. History, but it's spelled Hystery, History Chronicles. She's currently working on a historical novel, along with Rita Owen and Sean Riley Simmons. She's also the Anthony Award-winning co-editor of Malice Domestic 14, Mystery Most Edible. I love the name. The one that she did most recently, and that I have a story in there, is Mystery International. And she's co-edited numerous other short story anthologies. Now we have Susan here, who actually, your conversation with me sparked this whole event, so thank you. She began her fiction writing career in 2003. I'm hoping you guys can hear us, okay? Otherwise, text me in capitals, can't hear, okay? It has to be big for me to be able to see it. Susan began her fiction writing career in 2003 with the Frank Bennett Adirondack Mountain mystery series, published by Simon & Schuster. In 2012, she successfully transitioned to indie publishing with the publication of Another Man's Treasure, book 1 in the Palmerton Estate Sale mystery series, and she's never looked back. She writes the kinds of books she loves to read, twisty, believable, and with complex characters and sly humor. Like that part. Her series includes the Frank Bennett Adirondack Mountain mystery series, Palmerton's Estate Sale mystery series, Life in Palmerton, Women's Friendship fiction series, and the Hurt People thriller anthology. There's a question right there. Hurt People Thriller Anthology.
Trilogy.
Trilogy. Her short stories have appeared in MWA anthologies, The Mystery Box and Crimes by Moonlight. So thank you guys for making it. I know at least 2 of them have taken the train in or come in from quite far. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. And welcome. All right, so I have 6 questions planned because this was intended to be pretty thorough. But if you have questions, do jot them down, remember them, and there is opportunity at the end of this for you to share your questions and speak directly to our expert panel here. Okay. So I'm going to ask each of you, and just feel free to take any order that you like. Can you share a little bit about your present role and how you came to it in brief? Okay.
All right, I'll jump in there.
Go for it.
I came to being a co-owner and publisher of a small traditional publishing house, very backward way. I came in through the back door. I started many, many years ago going to Malice Domestic, which is a mystery convention that's held in the Bethesda, Rockville area. I was actually the chair of Malice for, I think, 17 years. In the process of all of that, I had no aspirations to write or publish when I first got involved in that, but I developed such a love for the mystery genre, and particularly, as Nev mentioned, historical mysteries, that Sean and I decided that we wanted to start a writing group. And so we did that, and then Sean, actually the New England people that put on Crime Bake every year were doing anthologies. And they decided, the 4 people that were editing those anthologies decided they didn't want to do it anymore, and if there wasn't somebody to step in, then it was going to go by the wayside. So Sean went up to Crime Bake that year, I think it was 2014, and talked to them, and we decided that we were going to acquire Level Best Books. So Level Best Books actually existed before that, and we promised them that we would do anthologies for at least 3 years. We actually did 5 years worth for them. In that time, we went through the whole vetting process with the MWA to become able to publish novels and anything else that we wanted. At first, we were only eligible to do short stories.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of grown from that. And in fact, Sean and I got together yesterday and celebrated our 9th year.
Oh.
Level Best Book. Dames of Detection
All
doing
right.
business as Level Best Books celebrated its 9th year. We have 200 plus authors, and we published 180 some books this year.
Whoa.
So yeah, I went from being an accountant to being a book publisher.
Fantastic.
But it's
Yeah,
a passion, and
Yeah.
Accounting not so much. I mean, that's what put the food on the table for the cats at least. And the publishing and the writing and the editing, that's all a passion. That's what I really love. That's what I love.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you. 180 books? Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Significant.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I can go next.
Okay,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
thought maybe I would start with the first part of your question, which is just to say more about
Mm.
my current role. So I'm a senior editor at St. Martin's and Minotaur, and I've been there for around 9 years, working on fiction and nonfiction. And probably a lot of you already have a sense of kind of what the job of an editor is, but I like to think of it as sort of 3 jobs in one, where one is on the acquisition side, where I'm getting in a lot of submissions every day, mostly from agents, considering them and bringing them up with my editorial board, and trying to make a case for why we would publish those books well, competing with editors at other houses, and hopefully acquiring some of those titles. Another part of the job is obviously the actual editing, where I'm working closely with authors to make the best book possible. Some of those authors being debuts, some of them being people I've worked with for 20 books. And then the third part is sort of serving as the intermediary between all of the different departments of the company. So publicity, marketing, authors, agents, the art department, the production department, design department, kind of serving as like the product manager for a book and keeping all of the parts moving and everyone in communication and making sure that nothing slips through the cracks. So that's just sort of like a brief overview. And I got into publishing because I knew I wanted to do some kind of work involving books, and started doing internships. And I was working at a bookstore at the time, and yeah, ended up at St. Martin's. I was not actually a huge mystery reader when I started, but I really liked the people at Minotaur, and I ended up inheriting some author series when their editors had left the company and moved on to other things, and from there came to really have a fondness for the genre and become really interested in it. And so that side of my list grew at the same time as my nonfiction side and everything else. Here I am.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you. Go ahead, Susan.
So I write under the name S.W. Hubbard, and the reason that is that my editor at Pocket Books, which was part of part of Simon & Schuster, said that men wouldn't read a book with a male protagonist that was written by a woman. So I started using those initials, and then I just kind of kept with it. So I was originally published by Pocket Books, which is an imprint of Simon & Schuster, and I got my big break because Pocket Books wanted to expand their mystery line, so I had a contract to write 3 books in the Frank Bennett mystery series. And then after those 3 books, after that contract ended, Pocket Books decided they wanted to get out of the mystery business. So that's one lesson of the publishing world, is that it's always changing. And so my contract wasn't renewed, they killed their mystery line, and I was out on the open market again, and I wrote a book called Another Man's Treasure that my agent loved, and she shopped it all around New York, and I got, really rave rejections, and, kind of went up the tree several times to the top person, and then they said no. And so it was really, pins and needles for almost a year of submissions. And then finally, she submitted to the last possible person she could have submitted to, and it was rejected. And I said, well, now what? And she said, well, just throw it away and, write something else. And I was like, no way, too many people have loved this book. I mean, no one said it was a bad book. They just said, it's doesn't fit our list. And
Yeah.
well, you probably have your list, all those things of what they say. But anyway, I decided to try indie publishing, and my agent said, oh, that'll never work. And I said, well, we'll just see. So I did it, and I made a lot of money. But it's a lot of work. So I learned as I was going, and I ended up writing 10 books in that series, the Palmerton Estate Sale Mystery Series, and I added more books to my Frank Bennett series because I got the rights back of 2 of the 3 books, but Simon & Schuster still holds the rights to the first book and will not give it back. So it's a lot of work, so you're, the best thing and the worst thing are the same thing, which is that you have total control. But when you have total control, you have total responsibility, and you need to still be getting input from people, because total control can be a bad thing. So I don't regret my journey. I learned a lot from being traditionally published, but I actually made more money being independently published. But I would say, in the minority in that. There are a lot of people who there are a lot of people who make money, but there are a lot of people who don't make any money.
Jump in on that. We actually, Level Best had, and still to some degree has, an author who published 3 books with us. And part of the reason she came to a traditional publisher was because she wanted to be eligible for things like the Agatha,
Right.
that sort of thing. And I don't know why one of those 3 books wasn't Invest Historical. It didn't, and so when I offered her the renewal, she said, it's nothing against you, but I make a lot more money, and she did, because she had other series that she had published independently that she apparently made a lot of. I mean, she has like a 40,000 person, email type thing.
Nice.
And, as soon as, at Bouchercon, she kept putting books out, kept consigning more books, and they kept selling.
Fantastic.
I mean, so there are pluses to going indie.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a ton of work though. So we're gonna get into the 3 pathways, to publishing. And let me just back us up a little bit. So, we're writers. Say one of us has this really good premise, we start writing. Can you, from your perspective, and just feel free to piggyback on each other's conversation, lay out some of the stages of that? I know there's a creative aspect, and then there's this whole, marketing aspect, and then of course publicity. But within those broad 3 areas, want to just break it down a little bit for us? What do you think the steps are?
What do you mean, after they've already submitted it and it's been accepted, or
Well,
just start at the very beginning?
Really at the very beginning. We have a really good premise. We think it's excellent. And
Okay.
we start writing. And then what?
And you're not finished?
Then we're not finished.
Oh, you're not finished?
I've never done the writing part, so I can't speak to what happens at that stage.
Typically, unless it's nonfiction
Yeah.
or true crime,
Yeah.
it's not gonna come through as an unfinished
Yes,
manuscript.
yes.
It's gonna come through as a finished manuscript.
Yes.
Sometimes the nonfiction is, I guess, written on spec.
Back down to the
You gotta
outline,
propose on example.
Yeah, exactly.
proposal and a sample, just
So in
people
our
know.
case, we get them both ways.
Okay.
A lot of agents are now know about us, know either myself or
Yeah.
Sean,
Yeah.
and books will come through kind of the directly to you way. We also have on our website, submit,
Yeah.
and that's where you hit the button and fill out all of your information and attach your Word document,
Okay.
complete manuscript, not
Yeah.
first 3 chapters, complete manuscript, and it comes to an email which I oversee.
Okay.
So a lot of those, that slush
Yeah.
pile is where I pull from, and a lot of them are represented by agents.
Okay.
So we take agented and unagented.
Let me ask Susan, because you're doing 22 books. I mean, that is just, it blows me away. I'm on book 4, and I'm, like, whoa, this is a lot. So 22 books, hats off. Give me a sense of your stages of the process.
Well, I would say that it's changed a lot over the years. When I started my very first Frank Bennett book, I was doing it as sort of therapy for myself. I was struggling with infertility. I couldn't make a baby, so I thought, well, I'll make a book. And, joined a writer's group and, I worked on it for probably 10 years, and when I finally got my agent, she said, how long did it take you to write this? I said, 10 years. She goes, don't tell anyone that. So I have, since then, improved my productivity. But one thing that I think I had no clue about when I started out was genre or subgenre. I mean, I was writing a mystery, but there's so many subgenres within mystery. And you really, to sell the book, you really need to be within the genre. So a lot of times I'm writing this mashup, it's a cozy serial killer, horror, supernatural. It's like, it won't sell. It won't sell. Not only will it not sell to a traditional publisher, but it won't even sell. I mean, you can publish it, you can press the button and upload it to Amazon, but it won't sell. So readers want to know what the genre is. So that's what I would say, when you're writing, to know your genre. And finish your book. I mean, finishing a book, I know a lot of unpublished authors who are just, I wrote 100 pages of this, and then I decided the idea wasn't good, I put it down. Wrote another 50 pages, ideas, you can make any idea work, but you just need to finish a book. you learn a lot from finishing.
I hear ya. And I've done that. I have like a half a dozen incomplete manuscripts. And that was because I didn't know how to outline. I had
I don't
not
outline.
learned how to outline.
I'm a pantser.
Yeah, see, there's plotters and there's pantsers, and
Yes.
pantsers they have something in their mind that they're driving to, and you just don't put it on paper. Once I learned how to outline, I over-outline. So,
Don't tell me you wrote a 50-page outline.
no, not a 50-page outline. Usually I do things in Excel. When it prints out in tiny font, it's about 2 pages. But I do everything in Excel, so this is me. But outlines can be anything that helps you get a sense of where you're going. And it's because there are these lovely, juicy scenes that somewhere in your book will happen. You just have no idea how you're going to get there. Well, you put it in the outline, and that will save you 6 unfinished manuscripts. So I'm going to get to the meat of our conversation now, because we have 3 paths at least here. And we have multiple skills within this expert panel. So they're going to tap into their writing, because both of you, I think Susan and Verena, have written material and are writing a historical novel. And then we have at least 2 people who have a lot of experience in the traditional publishing world, a smaller press and also a large, massive house. And then we have an expert here on self-publishing who's really run the gamut. So each of you can speak to a different road to publication, but there are pros and cons to every path you take. So can we get a sense from you on each of you, on what the pros are and what the cons are for that path of publication that you represent? Okay, gotcha. I think it's still pointed at you, I think. So I haven't managed to mess it up and show the sky instead, so we're good. All right, who wants to go first?
I would say some of the pros of working with a larger traditional house are just like the publicity and marketing arm that you get. This whole team with a lot of experience that can see your book within the larger context of the market and thinks a lot about positioning and has a lot of practice with finding readers and getting books to those readers. And of course also you sort of do have a built-in community in that there are all of these other authors in the same genre who are in the same house, and that can work to your benefit. The other side of the coin, of course, is that the house is thinking about your project in this larger context, and so first of all, there are sort of limitations, and maybe greater limitations along the lines of genre, and like I find myself as an editor sometimes turning things down because they feel too experimental somehow, or I know that if I pitch this project to the publishing team, I'm not going to have comp titles that already demonstrate how that specific type of book has done in the market that I can use as proof as to why this one will also do well. And it also might be, I might get in a great contemporary mystery set in an antique store, but I literally already have one of those on my list. And so we don't want to be taking too many things on that are going to be in competition with one another. We might choose to publish the book in a season that you would prefer not to publish in because we already have 5 other books in the other seasons that we don't want this one to be too close to in terms of pub date. So I think there are benefits certainly to being part of that larger context, and then there are drawbacks in that your book isn't considered just on its own. It's considered in terms of how it's going to work with all these other things.
Yeah. But then there's the small publishing house. I say medium-sized because of the number of authors, but in terms of people working on the books themselves, we're very small. We do most of the covers in-house. Sean has proven to be an absolutely phenomenal cover artist, along with her other skills. All the financial stuff comes through me. Marketing, we have somebody who works on that, but not the big machine of St. Martin. So I think we kind of, maybe are a little more aggressive in taking certain things than Hannah can be, because she's got to go to somebody else and ask. Where Sean and I basically choose what we're interested in, and then if we offer the contract, then if it's from me, I'm the primary editor. If it's from her, she's the primary editor. So until such time as we have hundreds of people working for us.
Yes.
That's probably the way it's going to be. But it's also very collaborative.
Yes.
Certainly very collaborative. They have a lot of access to us. We do have one person now who's kind of in between me and Sean and all the emails. Because there are thousands that come in. I'm sure Hannah knows that too. And I don't have just one email address. So,
So now everybody that has been pitching, you know why, because they have to, weed through all those emails. And, I go on vacation and I'm inundated and I'm behind on my emails. These folks are perennially inundated. So this is why that process is the way it is. But I do also want to talk about some of the cons. So on any given day, I have no idea what my book is selling for. Amazon does some magic. Macmillan has done their thinking and positioned it in a certain way. There's complete lack of control in terms of pricing as a traditionally published author. You basically have to trust the machine to figure it out, the machine being the publisher, to figure it out. And as we know, there can be, a few people working on it, or very personal, but, small group working on it. But the author does not then say, oh, I'm going to do a little temporary price reduction. Let's today bring it down by whatever. I can't do that. So I have to let go, and you have to be willing to let go. We get a lot of contribution, opportunity to contribute to the cover, to the blurb. I have wonderful relationships with my team at Macmillan, at Minotaur, and they will listen. They will listen to my thoughts, but the images are theirs. You can't say, use this cover. That's what you have them for. You have to trust that the experts know their business. But if you're a micromanager, this is probably not the way to go. You will be a problem character for them, and you will drive them nuts, and won't be happy either. So, for all the control freaks in the audience, those that want that control, want to be the person determining the pricing and the cover and all the other 50 other, maybe more, decisions that need to be made, self-publishing is the route. So, absolutely. Susan, can you tell us some of the pros and some of the cons?
Yes. So yes, obviously, when you're with a publisher, you have a team behind you, which is a great thing, but you still have to do work. I think a lot of people feel like, well, I want to be traditionally published because I just want to write. But no, outside of like J.D. Salinger, who was a hermit and still managed to sell books, that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, you have to, even if you're traditionally published, you still have to do some marketing work. You still have to, get out there, do signings, have a presence on social media, have a newsletter list. So, I mean, there's still marketing stuff that you have to do when you're traditionally published. When you're independently published, you have to do all of that, plus more. But as Nev said, you can run sales, okay? So I can, I just submitted one of my books for a BookBub featured deal. I'll lower the price if I get accepted. I'll lower the price, I'll have a big sale, that'll boost sales on the rest of the books in the series. And I see my sales every day. I mean, I look at my sales numbers every day, unless I'm depressed and then I don't look at them every day. But, so yeah, I mean, it's total control, but it's also all the work. So, I mean, I have found a cover designer that I'm happy working with. I would never, ever suggest that someone design their own cover, even if you're artistic. No. Save up your money and hire a cover designer. I have a proofreader. I used to have an actual story editor, but she died. And then when I tried to find someone else, I wasn't really able to find someone that I worked with as well. And so I use sort of a beta reader now. But you definitely still need to have feedback from someone. But the great pro is that you can turn it around really quickly. I mean, the traditional publishing process is going to be from the day you sign your contract, it's going to be over a year before you see your book in print.
Usually like 2.
Yeah. So, if you're getting up there in years, you might want to consider. But you also have to have some technological ability. I mean, if you're a total, if you can't use a computer, then you're not able to do it.
Well, then that's when you get someone else to help you, consultants. Okay, there are a slew of consultants out there that will help you self-publish.
And there are a lot of crooks. So
There
be
are crooks too, yes.
Super careful.
Know what you're paying for, be very aware of what you're paying for in the self-publishing world, absolutely. So there's so many, pathways here, and the difficulties are those of access, of knowing how to pitch, and there's a ton of resources out there, which Writer's Digest and Poets and Writers and such, and the websites of publishers I found to be an enormously useful tool that helps you know how to position your work in a way that they will accept, that they will understand and know what they're looking for. So we're going to come to that in a little bit. But let's go to this, the industry is in flux. Publishing is completely changed compared to 20 years ago, I would say even compared to 10 years ago. And it's not just self-publishing that has been growing, but there's other aspects of the industry, consolidation being one of them. There are fewer and fewer publishers out there because they're all under few umbrellas. But let's ask each of you what you think about this. I mean, there's AI, right? Artificial intelligence looming, and nobody knows exactly what it's going to do to the industry. There's different digital formats, Kindle Vella, and a whole series of them. And then some of the genres too. We'll have a separate question on the genres and their evolution in a minute. But what are the big changes you see? And then if you could also attach to that the changes, how can we position ourselves to succeed with them? What can we do about these changes that are coming to us? Pick whichever part of the question you like. It's like, throw it all out there.
I'm going to go at that from a different angle.
Yeah.
I think when, I'm going to say the dirty word, COVID. When COVID first hit, I think a lot of people thought that the publishing industry was going to go down the tubes because people weren't going to be reading. Wrong.
Yeah,
Wrong.
people read more. Are you kidding?
Big wrong.
Yeah.
And I think because that's what people could do.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
couldn't go anywhere, but they could sit at home and they could read. The other thing they could do is they could get on Zoom events.
Yes.
And Zoom events became a huge thing, both really, put together mini-cons, and also authors getting together and doing like a library event, which we're doing here today, although there are some of us that are here in person, but during COVID they weren't. So I don't think in those regards that, publishing really changed all that much. Now AI, I don't know that much about AI. I've had people say to use it to write something that you're going to tell somebody is your original work is wrong, so wrong. But I think AI is useful in other ways. I know that audiobooks are now done with AI, and I've listened to some of them. They're not bad. They're really not bad. And if you want to get your book out there as an audiobook quickly, if it's not being sold to Blackstone or Harlequin or some of these other audiobook publishers, you can do it that way. And I think you can even do it on Amazon, who's everywhere, for very little money. So I think in that regard, it may be a good thing for authors, because a lot of people will say, oh, I want to read your book, but I'd like to read it in audio. because I can't see, or I do it while I'm driving, or all of those things. So, and I can't really speak to the big changes because I wasn't involved in it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other thoughts on changing in the industry?
I mean, audio is certainly growing. It's the fastest growing format in publishing. People love audio editions. Sometimes the audio sells more copies than the hardcover. For us, which would have been unheard of 10 years ago. Mass market is obviously a format that we're seeing less of, just because financially it's harder to make margin with books that are selling for $9.99 rather than, like $30 for a hardcover. And because a lot of previous mass market readers are now reading ebooks instead. So, I mean, I feel like at the same time that authors are trying to figure all of this out, we on the publishing side are also just trying to like figure out, see what readers are doing, and try to kind of keep up with them. And we also get feedback from places like Barnes and Noble that may suddenly say to us, we want to see more trade paperback originals rather than hardcovers for, especially for like mysteries on the cozier side of things. And so then we pivot and try some of our debut mysteries in that format instead. And it definitely requires a lot of flexibility on all ends. I don't know what is going to happen to AI in publishing. We're all just kind of being as flexible and quick moving as possible, I think.
Yeah, I hear ya. There is a fear, I'll be quite blunt about it, that AI will essentially take away our jobs, right? In the graphic arts space, I know that there are lawsuits out there, there are questions to the copyright authority out there about AI generated material because it's leveraging some work from someone else. And I asked, I think it was Copilot, to write a children's short story with a banana, a tomato and something else. And so it did. It did create a very simple story. So I asked a second time, and it gave me the same short story, just swapping out the two. I mean, it works. AI does work, and it will get smarter as the years evolve and as it sucks in more material. But I'm concerned that at some point, when it is that smart, that it will become too easy to just provide a complex seed and have an entire story generated by AI. It's not, the story in the machine anymore. It is an evolving technology. So I actually asked Macmillan, I'll be honest about this, was now public, to put into my contract language that says we will not use Nev March's text in sharing it with AI, because I know that has happened for academic publishers. There was a recent publisher, an academic publisher, that sold all their academic text to I think it was Amazon for their educating their AI. I asked for that, and that Macmillan will never print a book in the style of Nev March. Now, I can't say that a publisher will never limit themselves completely, but I was very, very clearly assured there is no intention to ever do that. At least at this point in time, they will not do that, and they would not be able to use my name anyway. So publishing does want original work, and AI is being seen as a tool. How we use the tool, anybody's guess, okay? I don't claim any kind of authority over that. No idea how we're going to use the tool, but people are using it for marketing. They're using it to create their blurbs. They're using it to create content on social media. They're using it in all the administrative kind of stuff that we have to do. And if it's a tool and it helps you get done faster, hey, more power to you. But in terms of creating original content, that's sort of, for me, the holy grail. That's where I want a human brain on the other side of that book. I do not want to be reading a mashup of something that the system has put together for me. It would not feel satisfying to me. So it's sort of a little bugbear for me. Tell me about genres. Your favorite genre, things that you think are changing in the genres. What would you write to read more of or write more of? How is the genre of mystery, crime novels, really? Crime is broader than just mystery. How is that evolving and changing? What's going on there?
One thing that we're seeing readers want a lot of is sort of lighter mysteries. I think people have a lot that they're worried about currently, and so the idea of sitting down with like a heavy psychological suspense is maybe for some readers not as appealing as it once was, as opposed to like more of a capery thing. But I guess with the caveat, I just want to say that I think sometimes authors try to write for the market, or based on like what they've heard one editor say readers are looking for, and I just think that usually doesn't work out. One, because things are changing so quickly, and as we said, it will take probably 2 years for a book to be published traditionally from the time that you turn in a submission to the actual pub date. And so in that time, the market probably will have shifted entirely. But also, I just think you ultimately need to write the book that you want to write, and that's what's going to feel truthful and honest. I think on the publishing side, it feels to me like we're constantly just trying to kind of catch up with readers, really, who are the ones making the actual decisions. And our job is to just find a way to connect those readers with the books they want to read. And so you can really only predict so far, I think, as both an editor and a writer. And then I would say for myself, I am interested in things on the cozier side. I'm interested in still things on that psychological suspense, and I think for me the most important thing is depth of character and voice, and just there's so many books out there, and you really need those characters to feel fresh and original and real, and that is what will keep me reading a submission.
I agree with Hannah. I recently had a podcast with one of our authors, and I did not know this, and I'm the one who selected her book. It's about World War II. It takes place during World War II. It's actually about the Flying Nightingales. Now, do people in this room know who the Flying Nightingales were?
Maybe not. Tell us,
Okay,
yeah.
so first of all, she tells me, she said, I forget how many rejections she actually got before she came to us. And the reason was, she said, nobody wants to hear anything about World War II anymore. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we have several writers who are writing World War II.
Yes.
The Flying Nightingales actually were girls who came from the countryside in Great Britain.
Okay.
And they flew with I forget what kind of planes they were, but they flew with supplies going over the continent, and then they flew back with the wounded. I think there was maybe only one of the planes that actually really was shot down. Not very many of them actually died in service. And in point of fact, the very last, or at least the author's opinion that she was the very last Flying Nightingale just recently died, but she did get to hear a copy of the book because the author was in touch with the daughter. This book already has movie TV attention.
Yes.
This is the book. This is the book nobody wanted, and it's going to be a series.
Yes.
And it's wonderfully written. She wasn't a debut author, but and it's just because I have that interest in historical, and I learned something, and that's a big thing for me when it comes to historical mysteries. I want to be taught something I didn't know about that period in history. I don't want you to give it to me like a textbook, but
Yeah.
I want you to develop the characters and put something in there. And we talked about
Yeah,
this, you
yeah.
and I did on the podcast. So that's my favorite, but I also like true crime. So I don't know if Hannah gets involved with any of the true crime, but we have some people that are writing true crime.
Yeah.
Dawn right there, she's
Yeah.
got a series of books that we're gonna put out. What is the?
Vacations Can Be Murder, a true crime lover's travel guide.
And it's by sections of the United States, so it's places you can go to visit.
Got it. Let me just tell the people on Zoom land here, DM Bar is talking about,
Vacations Can Be Murder, but I'm doing that under my own name.
okay,
So it's going on
vacations
March.
can be murder, okay, yeah. Yeah, so, thank you, yeah, just because I don't want to swivel it around, once I touch it, it will break.
And if you're on Facebook and you're friends with Dawn, I think the cover's up there, right?
The
Or one
cover
of
is
the covers.
gorgeous,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
They're doing my thriller too, so I'm with them for fiction and nonfiction.
Wonderful, fiction and nonfiction, true crime and mysteries, yeah. And this is how, writers don't have to always be in one niche. We can move around a little bit, adjacent niches maybe, and play around. And I know, you have Susan has a couple of mystery series out there. Now, are they all very similar? I think, you break away a little bit,
Really
yeah.
different.
Yeah.
I would say what unites them is a strong main character and a good supporting cast. I did kind of want to write something a little darker with my thriller trilogy, and I found that it didn't go over as well with my readers as I had hoped, because it was too dark for them. They didn't want dark. So that was a little bit of a disappointment, because I enjoyed, I think the people who read it really liked it, but it was harder to make that pivot, to take your readers to a darker place. I would say that with indie writing, to make money, you really need to write a series. And, I met with a woman recently who, wanted advice, and she had written a memoir, and then a children's book, and then she wanted to write a mystery. It's like, you gotta pick a lane, you gotta pick a lane, and you just can't go that far afield, I would say in terms of like jumping on the bandwagon of something that's been successful, it's easier to do that as an indie author, because you don't have that 2-year time lag. So if you see something that's taken off and you think you could, but you still have to like it. I mean, you can't force yourself to write something that you have no affinity for, but you can jump on that bandwagon a lot faster as an indie.
Yeah, one thing that we've noticed is just the importance of continuity between the writer and their readers. We talk a lot about author brand, which is, I think, for a lot of people, myself included, kind of an icky word, but it really just means like some kind of consistency and a sense of ongoing communication, where readers know what they're getting when they're coming to you. And sometimes authors do switch genres, and that can be done very effectively. But what is usually not effective is sort of jumping around. So you start out cozy, and then you write a thriller, and then you write a memoir, and then go back to cozy. That makes it difficult for readers to follow you, and to, if you're trying to make a living this way, to have that consistency.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Branding. So there's a lot of work to be done in the marketing side. You've done the work with the book, writing it, you have sold it, you have a contract with one of these folks, and now you want to get on to the next book. But actually there's a lot of work left to be done. And that's the publicity, that's the branding, that's the engagement. And so can you talk a little bit, folks, about what, maybe Susan, start with you, what's worked for you in terms of connecting with the audience and reaching readers?
Well, it continues to change. I mean, I was having great success with Facebook ads, but now Facebook, the algorithm has changed and Facebook is really skewing a lot older now, so younger readers are really not on Facebook. So then I kind of got into TikTok, which was a lot of work, a lot of work. So yeah, it's always changing, and you have to be willing to roll with that. I mean, it would be great if you could just like plug everything in and just set it to roll, but it's always changing. You know, I do have a newsletter list and try to send my newsletter once a month. You know, running the sales and stuff. Now, I make the lion's share of my money through Kindle books, ebooks. So I can do the price markdowns and stuff. For that reason, I don't really, like when I was traditionally published, I would go to VoucherCon and Mouse Domestic and all those things. I have not done that at all since I have become an indie, and I have not done, and I'm so glad that I never have to do another bookstore signing, because talk about a soul-destroying experience is just, you know, I went to one once where not only did no one come in and buy my book, no one even entered the store in the 2 hours that I was there. So, you know, or you're sitting there and people are asking you where's the bathroom, and, you know, I mean, it's just truly soul destroying. So I was very, very glad to leave that aspect of promotion behind.
I think Parnell Hall did a song.
Yes.
Yeah.
About being
Right.
with Mary Higgins Clark
Yeah.
sitting beside him.
Yeah.
But I hope this makes you feel better. I went to a bookstore in Bethesda a lot of years ago. Michael Connelly's second book had just come out. Michael Connelly.
Yeah.
And I bought and completely read the first one. I had the second one, I was halfway through. I go to the bookstore. It was during the week, and it was around lunchtime, you know, 11 to 1 or 11 to 2. I could have sat there in that bookstore all afternoon talking to Michael Connelly. It was like one other person came in there. I mean, so it is it's soul destroying.
Yeah. And every author has a nightmare story to tell. I mean,
Yeah.
so.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Plus Parnell's the heart, you know. And you mentioned the anthology that we won the Anthony for.
Yeah.
He was the presenter of that anthology. And he said to me after we had won it, he said, well, I never won an Anthony, but I figure I have now just by, you know.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which made me feel good, especially finding out when he got so sick.
Yeah. It feels like almost a rite of passage. Publicity is hard. I do remember Barnes and Noble sitting there, and my 2 friends that had decided to come were the only ones that were there.
Good friends.
So yeah, good friends. Hey, you know, you gotta love them.
To go back to the idea of just building that personal brand,
Yeah.
I think people are often overwhelmed by social media and sort of there are all of these different platforms, and it feels like you have to do them all. And what we advise is that authors choose one platform that feels organic, the most natural, that you enjoy the most, and just focus on that. You don't need to do Instagram and Facebook. You don't need to be doing TikTok dances to sell your book. And if you can just find one of those that you enjoy, then that's where we see the most success. And a lot of my authors really enjoy Instagram. I work with Ellie Alexander, who's like a total natural at social media. Mindy Quigley, who does the Deep Dish mystery series. She's really, really good at Instagram. Does a lot of funny cat-related content. She did like an infomercial with her 7-year-old son recently, which was very cute. Celeste Connelly is really good at social media. And I think, it can help to look at sort of those authors' platforms and what they're doing to engage with their audience. But I think readers can really tell when you're being authentic, and when you're having fun doing whatever you're doing on social media, and they can tell when it is something that you're just doing it because you like feel like you need to, and you're trying to imitate someone else. So yeah, find what feels okay to you and don't force yourself to become like a social media sensation, because it's not actually what publishing's about.
So I actually hired a 25-year-old to teach me social media. I did. Friend's daughter, communications major, and all I had was Facebook at the time, to share pictures of my kids basically. And she taught me how to use it a little bit better. And here's the thing, I do historical mysteries, so all the pictures that I have acquired a lot of, all those pictures, as I research, I acquire pictures, I use them in my social media posts with little, one-liners to say why they were interesting. It's just one way to share something that interested me with my audience, and to keep the conversation ongoing, because you don't want to be too personal. I don't want to share, all the information TMI, right, about my family and my life, but I do want to engage my readers in the writing world, in my writing process, for example. So that's something you can do if you are interested and you have a book out there and you have a contract and you are struggling with social media. Find a young person. They are much better at these things than me. So this is how I
The
did
other
it.
thing is, I think it's really helpful to just engage with other authors, and someone else has a book coming out, post about their book, and that's really effective in building community, building goodwill with other writers who will then hopefully give you a shout out on your pub day.
Yeah.
That's something that a lot of my authors, in addition to posting about their own stuff, they're constantly in community with other writers, and I think that's
That works.
yeah, and
That
it's
works.
also less intimidating, I
Yes.
think, to if you don't know what to say and you don't know what to post about from your own life, just post about someone else's book and they'll
It's great.
love you for it.
That's right.
I do think that the mystery conference conventions are a good thing. Because I haven't been to, we were the bookstore at VoucherCon by default this year. And believe me when I tell you that as soon as the group of panels lets out, that there's the big rush on
Yes.
the book room.
To their books, for their books. Yes.
Yes, for the people on the panel. And hopefully, it's hard to have enough for everybody,
Yeah.
but you'd like to have enough that the author could get,
Okay.
reasonably represented, but people are going to write down their name,
Right.
or they're going to mark it in the program book, and then they're going to go home and say, oh, well, I want to get this on Kindle anyway.
Yes.
I don't want to buy the
Yes.
hard, like
Yes.
Susan said, the vast majority of people are buying Kindle books, not as
A lot.
much hard copy as they used to.
Yeah.
VoucherCon, Malice, Love Grows Crimes, Solution Fest, I guess, is a little more for authors, and go to your MWA meeting.
Yes.
Join MWA.
Yes. Join
Sisters in
MWA.
Crime. Join Sisters in Crime. Go to those meetings, because you don't have to be an author to go to Sisters in Crime meetings. And like Hannah said, you'd just be sitting at a table having lunch and talking about books, and person over here wants to write a book or has got one in the mix is sitting here beside Marcia Talley, which is my case years and years ago. Her first book was coming out. So you listen, you listen to how they managed to do what they're doing or what you want to do that they've already managed to break the barrier. So
we started this conversation when we were having lunch with writing as a team sport. We think about, butt to seat, lead on the page, all that stuff, right? And it feels like it's just us, one person slogging away. But it really does, it is a community, and a very generous community, I have found. And so it really does aid us, and we grow with the community of other writers. So thank you for that. Absolutely agree. Now, housekeeping here. There are two more important questions here. So I'm going to ask them all, and for you guys, wake up. We're going to ask, what are you acquiring? And then how can a writer reach you? Those are the questions that are coming. And then the last part of this, and we have enough time, is for you for the audience, and I'll start looking up on the Zoom group as well, for questions for the panel. In between these two things, there will be a short break. You can grab something to drink, whatever you like. But this is a time where we become less formal, and it's more free-flowing. So think of your questions, and if you have a pen, this is the time to write down stuff, folks. What are you acquiring, and how can people reach you? Okay.
Oh, I thought we were taking the break.
Oh, is this before the break or the after the break?
No,
Do you want a break right
No,
now?
we can-
Okay,
no, we
then
can
let's-
answer
Let's do this very important question and then take a little break, yeah.
we're actually acquiring a little bit of everything. We
Okay.
have Level Elevate, which is our children's middle grade.
Okay,
We have just Level Best, which are, contemporary, mostly contemporary mysteries. We have Level True Crime. We have Level Brit. Now, that's not really open for us in the sense that Martin Edwards, who's in Great Britain, wants us to start republishing some British authors
In
that
America.
they get them back, or they don't have very much American presence.
okay.
And Historia, which is our historical imprint. So when I look at things, I'm looking at everything. And I'm actually right now getting a lot of submissions that are short story collections. And we've been getting a lot of interest from people wanting to do short story anthologies with themes. Music is a big theme right now. We have one that's about Sondheim, and Martin Edwards is going to edit one about Burt Bacharach.
Okay.
We are publishing Anthony and Seamus do Capers, so that one comes out, I think, by the end of this month, the beginning of next month. Those are people that have won an Anthony or Seamus award.
Yeah.
They also, I think, is Down and Out Books is doing the one called Anthony and Agatha something or other. It's all over Facebook right now.
Okay.
So we're acquiring a lot of those, and of course I'm always looking for that historical, which really piques my curiosity, and there are quite a few of them, because I'm very eclectic about the historical period.
Okay.
I used to say, I don't go past the Victorian era, which is before the Great War,
Yeah.
and of course before World War II. But then I got interested in documentaries,
Oh,
and
nice.
all of a sudden
Yeah.
I wanted to know why.
Yeah.
How did World War II happen?
Yeah.
And what was going on? And what made these people do what they did? So I'm not looking at it from the battlefield sense, but more from the human interest sense.
Gotcha.
So we're kind of really open to pretty much anything in the mystery genre.
Broad slate, wonderful. In your in the historical, is it more historical fiction, or historical mystery, or
Mostly
both?
historical mystery,
Mystery,
for
yeah.
the most part.
Okay.
If it's a really good historical,
Okay.
just novel,
Yeah.
it's not impossible to get
Yeah.
published by the
Okay.
Press, but yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. Well, hope folks have absorbed that a little bit, and there's a recording. I will put it up in a couple of days as soon as I, get home and get
Now, do you want me to give them the email address again?
Yes, let's go with
Okay,
that.
so if you go to www.levelbestbooks.us, and then there's going to be a link for you to click on, and that's where you submit your book.
Where are you located?
Maryland.
Okay, thank you. Hannah, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. So I also do a wide range from cozier side of things, all the way through thriller. And as I said, particularly interested in super voicey, character-driven stories. But there are so many different mystery editors at Minotaur, and then obviously even more editors at St. Martin's as a whole. So if something isn't the right fit for me, it might be a great fit for one of my colleagues. And we do have a website where you can read a blurb about each editor and what kinds of things we work on and what we're looking for. So I recommend, if you're interested in submitting to us, that you take a look there, and there might be someone who's an even better fit for your book than I am. I do primarily consider submissions through agents, but we have 2 mystery competitions for unpublished writers that the due dates are just coming up for. So there's the one that we hold through Malice Domestic, which I vet the submissions for, and that due date is, I believe, November 15th.
November 15th.
Yep, and we have a whole bunch of really wonderful volunteers through Malice who help us go through all of those submissions, and we pick a winner at the end, and they get a contract with Minotaur Books. And then there's also one through MWA, which I think the deadline is the end of November.
I thought it was December, but
Okay,
I'm a past
December
winner
1st
of that.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I got
Yeah.
into Minotaur, yes.
So that one is if your mystery is maybe a little bit less cozy. The Malice one is for more cozy and sort of cozy traditional mysteries. So those are a great way if you're unagented to get through to us. And yeah.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Gotcha. Okay, so I have run through my questions, okay, folks? And what we'll do is just take a quick break so you can get something to drink, get tea, coffee, there's water there. Folks on the phone or on the line here, I'm going to start reading your questions. This break gives me a chance to just check what's on the chat. And the restrooms are right down the corridor as well, so that allows you. And we'll continue the conversation. This will be less formal because I don't